Something's fishy. The age of the YouTube filmmaker is officially upon us. Not 2 weeks ago, young YouTuber Curry Barker released Obsession, and it was a smash hit. Now, even younger Kane Parsons comes out with Backrooms. This guy is 20 years old. Forgive me, but I have to evaluate my life choices and my age for a few seconds. Backrooms is based off his YouTube web series that itself was based off a Reddit thread. And now A24 and a host of other influential horror filmmakers have given this guy a shot. So what is a 20-year-old's debut film like? Is it worth the internet hype? Or could this filmmaker use a few more years of wisdom? Backrooms is set in 1990. It follows recently divorced furniture store owner Clark, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Clark is having a bit of a midlife crisis, and he only gets a modicum of solace from his therapist, Mary, played by Renata Reinsve. Then one day, in the bottom floor of his store, something astounding happens. He walks through a wall and enters another place that itself looks like anonymous office space. It seems to be infinite rooms, infinite hallways and passageways, and possibly something else lurking about. These back rooms are unexplainable, undefinable, and possibly inescapable. Backrooms, the series and the film, are maybe the best example of internet horror. It's a new genre that's been popularized by Gen Z, but largely it's from the minds of people who have lived most of their lives online, who almost approach the internet as another world, a living, breathing entity where our dreams and our fears can be made real. So it's fascinating that Backrooms is set in the past, right at the beginning of our digital era, before the internet, before iPhones, before our connectivity and digital space was made tangible. And it's absolutely the perfect time period for this type of horror, because Parsons utilizes the found footage of high-8 digital cameras. The draw of something like Backrooms is both comforting and creepy, because it uses spaces we're familiar with, mixed with our discomfort for those spaces. And what's more discomforting than ordinary office space? Walls that have been adorned with wallpaper and nothing else. Furniture lined up or discarded that's not being sat on. Aesthetic fluorescent lighting that offers no character or texture. Simply put, the empty or abandoned office space is a capitalist nightmare. There's something so sickly yet insidious about this type of setup. And Parsons and his production designer create this world in incredible, non-specific detail. I seriously think this movie should be considered for an Academy Award for production design, because it's also hard to tell where the sets end and the visual effects begin. It's like bringing M.C. Escher paintings to life, only somehow creepier. And not knowing the magic tricks, not seeing the seams, really sells the authenticity of this world. And why is this world so creepy? Well, maybe it's because it's lonely. There are no windows. The doors are hidden. There are no people, but there might be around shadowy corners. There's no rhyme or reason why this should exist, and there's no logic to its corridors, to how its rooms connect, to where something begins and something ends. Simply put, it's infinite space and infinite terror. And for about the first 2/3 of this movie, the existential dread becomes palpable. It's this concept mixed with the filmmaking, which involves slow tracking shots, while not relying on traditional jump scares and shocks like most horror films, that really starts separating this apart from so many movies. But there's also a narrative attached to this. This still has to be a movie, and things like plot and characterization surprisingly get in the way of this movie achieving its true potential, because the characters in this film have to fall back on the trope that's so popular right now: trauma. Clark is going through a midlife and maybe existential crisis, while Mary has a troubled childhood that she just can't quite escape. Now, Parsons did not write this, but I'm sure he had a tough call in making the biggest decision when adapting his series. How much to explain and how much to leave ambiguous. And the biggest weakness of this film lies in its indecision. But the most effective parts are when things can't be put into words, or when characters can't talk about it, where they just experience, and we as an audience experience the space with them. Parsons and his screenwriter miss a golden opportunity to really pinpoint the emotion of this film, which is all within this Clark character, who's effectively played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, whether that's defining this space as a metaphor, or as a mind palace, or as a literal place where these characters can cope. The movie this most reminds me of is Skinamarink, a DIY horror film from a few years ago that was really the definition of vibes horror cinema. It too dealt with liminal spaces, about childhood fears that become manifest in the real world. That was a film that explained nothing, and was basically abstract in its scares and its narrative. By comparison, Backrooms is incredibly literal. Now, I ultimately enjoyed Skinamarink, less so because it's a satisfying narrative, and more because stylistically, it went all the way. It gave us the courage of its convictions. With Backrooms, I sensed that a little more courage would have gone a long way with this concept. Forget the web series it's based on, forget the lore, forget all the details that made this a phenomenon. What is the core of what it's about? That existential feeling, that sense of wrongness. And you almost wish it didn't have to have characters. It didn't have to have plot. It didn't even have to have an ending. So just on a visceral level, it's incredible. But that visceralness is completely lost by the end when some things are made literal, and in one huge case, completely silly. So I hope Kane Parson's next endeavor, where it's something new or it's a Backroom sequel, goes even further. Because for me, for a good 2/3 of this film, I was willing to follow him anywhere. Backrooms is a visceral experience in existential dread. Unfortunately, it has to tie that dread to narrative and characters. And by the end, it drops a lot of what made it special. It's definitely a mesmerizing time at the movies, and you should definitely check it out for yourself. For me, I might give it another look later this year and appreciate more about it, or in a few years' time. But for now, I have to give it a serviceable 3 out of 5 stars. If you like this review, please like and subscribe, or follow me on Letterboxd at RamirezS316. Now, I seem to have misplaced the door in this space, so I'm just gonna run really hard into my DVD shelf and hope I come out the other side.